Hello and welcome to week 7 of the Can-As podcast. Here as usual and as always with Celso.
Hello.
And for this week, we're going to talk about soccer, Team Canada, with their upcoming international break. We're going to have a midweek episode previewing the games, so we're not going to go too in-depth into the games upcoming this week. However, we will talk a little bit about them, and some big news actually coming from the men's national team. We got a new player, so we'll talk a little bit about our newest addition. Next, we'll talk about the NBA. Celso and I, speaking this week, we realized that we're talking about Wiggins and Canadians and that Gregorius Alexander kid, but we're not talking about RJ Baird, who's probably the best Canadian in the NBA right now. That's we're definitely going to start talking a little bit more about RJ Baird, and he's actually off to a really good start so far this year, which has been quite nice, and his Knicks team is performing quite well. Next, we'll talk about the NFL. A Canadian was involved in a trade last in the deadline. He went from a former Super Bowl champion to one of the worst teams to have ever played in the NFL. We'll talk more about that in a second. Next, we'll talk about the MLB and how the World Series just ended and the Atlanta Braves winning. I mean, spoiler alert, but if you didn't know that by now, then you're not really following the MLB too much anyway, so whatever. And then 2 Canadians were integral in that, so it was quite nice to see. We'll touch base a little bit about tennis. We were hoping to talk a little bit more because we thought the Canadians would do well. They didn't.
Not really.
So we'll talk just a little bit about tennis, I guess. And we're going to finish off with the NHL. Don't worry, we're not going to spend like 20 minutes talking about McDavid's goal against the Rangers. We're only going to spend like 18 minutes though.
Because, man, that was such an incredible goal.
100%.
That was definitely goal of the year so far.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely up there for goal of the year for sure. It's going to be tough to beat that for sure. Although Kachuk had a pretty nice goal yesterday. I still don't think it's as nice as McDavid's.
But no, beating 4 defenders, come on.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that later.
Yeah. All right, so let's start with soccer. So as we mentioned, we're not going to touch too much on this next international window, solely because we're going to have a midweek episode previewing the games, which will be released at 4 or 5 p.m. on Friday, which is going to be right before the game. So you'll be able to see that on Friday. But I do want to talk about a few things. So first off, Champions League came back this week. Some interesting results. Kyle Larin and Atiba Hutchinson got absolutely manhandled. They lost 4-0. Yeah, it was pretty bad. Then Bayern had a good job. They won 5-2. I believe Davies played the entire 90, if I'm not mistaken. So that was. Remember how last week we were talking about how, they're back from injury, which is great. So it's good. He actually ended up getting subbed off, but I don't think it was because of injury. I think it was just to get him out. Give him a little bit of time.
I was gonna say it's, I guess, good for Team Canada just to keep him.
He was off in the 65th minute. Yeah, he came off in the 65th minute, so not the end of the world. And he played a bunch, and he seems healthy right now, which is good because we need him healthy for the international break. But we'll talk more about that later. Lille ended up winning 2-1. So that's pretty darn good, and then guess who scored in the game? And yeah, he's so good right now, dude. Jonathan David is doing so well for his club team right now. I'm hoping he can bring that into the international break, but again, we'll talk about that later. Lille, do you remember talking about Lille a few weeks back and how they were a pretty bad start in the French League and the Champions League? Okay, so they moved from 4th to 2nd now.
Oh, nice.
In their Champions League group, at least, right?
Yeah. So that's still good, though. Yeah,
they're only 2 points behind Salzburg. And they still get to play Salzburg. So if they beat Salzburg, then they're ahead of them, right? Mm-hmm. So that's pretty good. And, they're doing well. Jonathan David keeps on scoring, man. So he's leading the league right now in goals. He's their top goal producer. He has 8 goals in 13 games. The next closest has 7 and 12. So... But it's still a really good amount of goals. Jonathan David has been so good to start this season. It's been absolutely fantastic. And then Kyle Larin's coming back to form as well, which is really, really nice and nice to see. Because if we're going to be honest, we need 2 or 3 legit strikers. The way that John Herdman has it set up, Canada needs 2 or 3 good strikers in there. And we have 2 world class. And then we have this new kid coming up, Ike Ugbo. I think that's how his name is pronounced. I'm not entirely sure. But
I heard lots of people speculating that he was going to be part of the team?
So he got announced to the team. And then it was actually a big deal because he was playing for England's under-21 team, and the international rules state that as long as you don't play before the age of 21, as long as you don't play more than 2 international fixtures for a country, you can switch country. And he was in Canada, lived in Canada for like 6 years, I think is what it was, which was the minimum to make him eligible to represent Canada. And so he had the choice of either staying with England, going to Nigeria, because that's where his parents are from, or representing Canada, and he chose Canada. Dang. And the Nigerian team's a good team, too.
Yeah, no, that's a good team. So like both England and Nigeria, but he chose Canada?
He chose Canada.
That's awesome.
That was pretty sweet. He is a striker, so, I mean, I think he has a little bit more difficult to get in the first team with England because Harry Kane is world class. But Jonathan David, Ike Ugbo, and Kyle Larin as your 3 strikers. That's a pretty formidable offense, you know. I feel bad for that Braun kid or whatever his name is. He got left out because Ike Ugbo joined us. But those who don't, so he's Ike Ugbo has been a part of Chelsea's system for a long time. He doesn't play for them right now. He plays for Ghent out of the Belgian league, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay.
But he's been on loan there for a while, and he's done pretty well for himself. He is a striker. Last year he played for Silsel Bruges as well. I think it's like the 2nd division Belgian. But he had 16 goals in 32 appearances, which a goal every 2 games is not bad at all.
Especially in soccer.
Yeah.
Football.
It's not Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl numbers, right?
That's totally different sports. So.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's tough to score goals in soccer, man. Like there's very few people out there who like will legitimately go out of their way and like just score a ton of goals. Like it's so difficult. Like there's a handful of players in the world right now that are quality enough to do that, which is it's quite interesting. So it's a good time to be a Canadian soccer fan because people are wanting to join our national program.
Which is again, like we said this like a couple times like in past episodes that it feels amazing that people want to represent Canada when before our team was not so good.
Yeah. But yeah. It's absolutely fantastic. So I'm looking at the list of the top scorers right now in the French league. Okay, so you have Kylian Mbappe up there. He's in 7th. He has 6 goals. Dimitri Payet, if you remember him, he was a West Ham legend. He plays for Marseille now. He's got 6 in 10. So per game, right? So in the games, Jonathan David is leading 8 goals in 13 games, which is actually it's not bad at all. But he has one of the best goals per 90 of this list too. Like there's only one person that's better, and it's Habib Diallo out of Strasbourg. He scores 1 goal every 90 minutes. Jonathan David is scoring 1 goal every 112 minutes, which when a game is 90 minutes long, it's not bad at all, right?
Yeah, no, it's pretty good.
So to take that into account, Kylian Mbappe, who's considered one of the best players in the world, strikers in the world, is scoring 1 goal every 176 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. So, like, nice. Jonathan David is crushing it right now. He's doing so well.
And how old is he again?
Jonathan David, I think he's like 21, 22. Ooh. He's still pretty young, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm Googling his age right now, but 21, yeah. Okay. January 14th, 2000. Thank you, Wikipedia. He was born in the States, but he chose to represent Canada, too. It's just one of those. Again, another kid coming in to represent Canada instead. So that's fantastic. So
and we have all these young players too.
Ton of young players.
And really good players. Yeah. So
we've said it once before and we'll keep on saying it again. Like this is the time to start becoming fans of Canadian soccer. If you don't like soccer after watching these guys, then you know what? That's fine. You're just not a fan. You're not a fan of soccer. It's not the end of the world. We're not going to hate you for it. But this is where you become a fan by watching somebody you can like get close to and somebody you can like I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, somebody you can like
look up to
like feel admire. A connection to admire
like
relate to that's the word. You become a fan of something by watching somebody you can relate to, somebody you can really look up to and aspire to be like.
I like when I was younger, like it was like the 2000 World Cup or not 2000 like 2002.
Mm-hmm.
And after seeing Oliver Kahn for Germany play, I was like,
100%.
I was like, I want to be a goalie just like Oliver Kahn. And then later, when Manuel Neuer started playing for Germany and playing for Bayern, I'm like, yeah, I just want to be just like them. So it is, yeah, like you said, it is a very good time to like get into the to Team Canada.
Yeah.
Just because like they're all young players, so you'll see them for a very long time.
Hopefully, knock on wood.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it's definitely a good time to hop on the bandwagon.
Like, this is truthfully, the greatest Canadian men's team.
Yeah, no, definitely.
And women's team we've seen in both of our lifetimes. And
Because
I
we've
think
seen
it's
lots of Canadian Canadian national teams since we were small. So definitely one of the strongest for sure.
Yeah, truthfully, in my opinion, this is the best. So it'll be absolutely fantastic to keep on watching him play. And then not only just watching him on an international level with the men's teams, but like watching him domestically too. Like we have some prominent Canadians, like we have a couple of Canadian-born kids playing in the Premier League that are lighting it up that have not yet decided to switch over from England to Canada. But we're hoping with how the Canadian team is doing right now and with them not getting any call-ups to the England senior team, we're hoping that it comes to us. But there's 3 Canadian-born talents in the Premier League right now that are just, and we won't talk about them until they decide to switch over. That's further enticing for them to switch over, right? So they can be mentioned on the Can-Ass podcast. So, but this is an incredible time to be alive for a Canadian soccer fan, for sure. And we'll preview it more at the on the Friday episode before the games. But we'll leave you with this: you do your absolute best. If you live in Edmonton, please do your absolute best to go out and support these men. Tickets are on sale for $20.
Lowest, yeah. There's not a lot left, but definitely if you do want to like catch the national team for sure.
And if you can't go and you don't feel comfortable because of COVID, completely understood. 100%. That makes sense. Watch them on TV. Find a way of just getting it on your television. There's so many different ways of being able to watch it. Like different articles are going to tell you how Sportsnet won soccer. Just find a way, because this is a team to watch right now for sure. No questions asked about that at all. So next, we're going to start talking a little bit more about the NBA and RJ Baird, somebody who we completely disregarded for whatever reason. But he's playing for the Knicks. I mean, to be fair, the Knicks have been pretty terrible for a while. But last year they made the playoffs, I believe, as a 4th seed, so like not bad. And they're becoming a team to be reckoned with. Like, they were a quite good team to start the season. Didn't they start like 5-1, I think?
Yeah.
They're pretty darn good.
Pretty good, yeah.
They've gone down since. They lost to the Raptors, but yeah, they're still doing quite well. RJ Baird is averaging 19.2 points a game, playing 35.3 minutes a game, which is 12-minute quarters, which 48 minutes. So he's like on for 2/3 of the game, pretty much, a little bit more. Yeah, which is it's really darn good, to be honest. So it's quite nice to see. Actually, 3/4, pretty darn close to 3/4 of the game. And he's doing pretty well, man. He's 40% on the 3-point line. He's averaging almost 6 rebounds a game, 2.7 assists. He's a good player. He was picked 3rd overall in the 2019 draft, and that was the Zion Williamson draft. So he obviously wasn't going to go 1st overall. Oh. Zion Williamson is going to be a generational talent. Yeah. So, but RJ Barrett is not that far behind him. Honestly, he's really good, man, and he's really the emergence of the Knicks team has coincided with RJ Barrett joining that team. I'm not saying he's the only reason. I do feel that RJ Barrett is that star or superstar that they've really needed in New York for the longest time. So it's been quite nice to see him play. I mean, I'm happy that it's tough, man. Whenever a Canadian player plays against the Raptors, he's like, I want the Canadian player to do well, but it's like,
but I want the
Raptors are
win.
Canada's team. You know what I mean? Like,
they're Canada's only team.
Well, yeah, that's why they're Canada's team. But then it pains me to say any Toronto team is Canada's team. But I love the Blue Jays and Raptors.
Yeah.
Though, so
I'm the same way.
But they're doing quite well. And then, so looking at the standings, in the NBA standings, you have the Knicks, who are 6-3. They're in 5th place. The Raptors are 6-4 in 8th place.
That's not bad.
Not bad at all. I mean, considering that they started like 1-3 and now they're 6-4, so they went on a 5-1 run. And actually, I didn't actually even know this until like recently, but Pascal Siakam still hasn't played a game.
No, yeah, I
And
didn't notice.
Scotty
Yeah.
Barnes has been injured for 2 games as well. Scotty Barnes is having one heck of a start to the season, like already getting like consideration for like rookie of the year. They're like, okay, this guy's the way he's started, he's going to be a front runner for the rookie of the year. So it's been quite nice. Like, so in first year, the Philadelphia 76ers, I have absolutely no idea how because they have the Ben Simmons fiasco going on right now. They're finding him every game the equivalent of one of his game checks because he's not going like he needs help and like in the sense that like how do I say this? They want him to go see a psychologist and a psychiatrist to figure out what's going on with him, and he's like, nah, I hate this team, I don't want to be here. But why are you here if you don't want to be here? Like, you had the option of staying home until we found you a trade. And he's like, no, I just... So then, yeah, they're finding him every single game.
Yeah.
That's a fiasco right now, what's happening over there with Ben Simmons. And did you hear what they're asking for? Like, let's say, like, in a trade with the Raptors, they were asking for Siakam, Van Vliet, a first, and, like, Anunoby. For just
basically
Simmons.
Our like starting lineup, and then
like, are you
first.
insane? He's not even that good of a player. Like, I would probably take Van Vliet over Simmons if I were to be quite honest with you.
Oh, I love Van
think
Vliet,
Simmons has more of an upside offensively, but Van Vliet's a better overall player and a more mature player and a more sought after leader, which is huge. Like especially in the NBA, you only have 5 players on the court at the time, and it's pretty crucial. And they play a lot of minutes, man. They play a lot of minutes. Like hockey, you play the best players play a third or a half of a game.
Yeah.
NBA will go up to like 90% of the game.
Like I think like Connor McDavid plays like roughly like 22, 23 minutes.
Yeah.
So basically a period.
Yeah.
And then,
right.
Yeah,
so,
basketball players play a ton. So.
Yeah. So you definitely need like basketball players need to.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have more of an impact on the game, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But regardless, so and then another like our Andrew Wiggins is doing pretty well over there with Golden State. However, Klay Thompson's back pretty darn soon, so that might affect his minutes. But I do think they'll like ease Klay Thompson in. But Klay Thompson was left off of like the best players list of like the 75-year anniversary top players list. He was left off, and he got really bitter about it. So now he has like I guess he's making up a like something on his shoulder. What the heck do you call it? A chip on his shoulder.
Chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, he's making that up right now. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, Wiggins is doing okay. He only had 16 points in 26 minutes played last game. His field goal percentage is not really that good. It's at 46.2%, which is and only 20% from 3 last game. So he can step up a little bit, but he's the person with the most minutes played in their last game for the Golden State Warriors was Steph Curry, obviously, with just under 30 minutes. So they don't play their stars that much there. They just rest them out because it was a little bit of a blowout against the 1-9 Pelicans. And then Williamson isn't even playing, is he?
No, isn't he hurt? Yeah.
Yeah, he's still hurt. The Pelicans are not a very good team right now, but they don't have a Canadian on there, I don't think, so we're just going to ignore it.
Actually, they do. His name is Nico Alexander-Walker. He does play for the Pelicans.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
I do actually remember him because he was traded there recently, right? Or was he drafted? No, he was drafted in the last couple of years.
Yep, he was drafted 17th overall in the 2019 draft.
Yeah, okay, I do remember that. Actually, yes.
Yeah. He's averaging 13.3 points per game, so it's still pretty decent. But, yeah, no, there is a Canadian on the
Very cool. Well, thank you for bringing that up.
No
thank
problem.
you.
No problem.
Yeah, I'm an idiot, sorry. Yeah, he had 8 points last game, so we'll see. So moving on to the NFL. So I started off the episode by talking about a little bit of breaking news. So for those of you who don't know, last week was the trade deadline in the NFL. And Dr. Laurent Duvernay-Tardif got traded from former Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs to champion of the worst teams in the world in the New York Jets.
You went to the Jets?
He went to the Jets.
No.
Yeah.
Why would you go to the Jets? Sorry, Chris, but
he didn't have any option. He didn't have a choice. He got traded. I mean, he is closer to home now, I guess.
Yeah.
But like, I don't think he really wants to. I think he's getting more playing time though, because he was injured the first like 5 or 6 games of the season. When he came back, he wasn't necessarily going to be a starter for them. So I think that's why he made him expendable. So getting more playing time would be nice for him, I think. And the Jets are not doing terribly so far this year. Like they're 2-5 or 2-6, I think. Which
that's not bad.
Last season they weren't even close to winning a single game, and they ended up winning one somehow, I think. But I don't know how. Yeah, I mean, Laurent Tardif is still a top player, top talent player. So yeah, it's I'm a little sad for him. And then other news regarding a Canadian is Christian McCaffrey's back.
Yep.
So that would mean that Chuba Hubbard is going to play a little bit less. I don't think it's going to be a lot, like significantly less. He'll still get some snaps in the game, and he'll still have his chance of like making it up.
Oh yeah.
Because if I'm not mistaken, Panthers like playing a 2-back system, but like not a big back and a small back, like 2 skilled backs that you can like have like the 4 or 5 passing options, right? So
and like we said, with CMC back, you'll be able to like learn by like looking at him playing.
Yeah.
And
I think in the end it's going to be a positive thing for him.
Exactly, just going to be a positive for Chuba.
Good
whether he plays or not, kind of thing. Yeah.
And then Chase Claypool had a game last week on Halloween against the Cleveland Browns, where the Pittsburgh Steelers won 15-10. They're starting to come into form a little bit. They've won 3 in a row. 2 against some pretty decent teams, and 1 against, your lowly Seattle Seahawks. But
it's tough to say lowly Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah. But he's had decent games. Like he had in his last, looking at his last 5 games. Okay, he had 3 receptions for 70 yards against the Raiders, but he was targeted 9 times. So it's either horrific throws by Roethlisberger or drops by Claypool. And I'm looking at his targets to receptions ratio. Like 3 of the 5 games, he had like a lot of drops or a lot of missed catches. So 3 receptions on 9 targets for 70 yards against the Raiders. And then the Bengals, he had 9 receptions with 15 targets for 96 yards, which is actually pretty decent. Like a 96-yard receiving game is pretty good. Next, against the Broncos, 5 receptions, 6 targets, 130 yards. And then he was just not there against the Seahawks. It's 2 receptions with 7 targets. And then his last game against Cleveland was like a pedestrian 4 receptions, 5 targets, 45 yards. So okay, again, you need a quarterback to throw you the ball as a wide receiver. It makes it a lot more difficult. Like a running back, you just run through people if you're that, like a Derrick Henry, right? But you need a good O-line. So you need a good supporting cast, but the wide receivers, in my opinion, like you're completely bent on the quarterback. And if you can make a spectacular catch to save your quarterback, or the quarterback can make a really good throw, like right into your arms, you just have to catch the ball.
Yeah.
But a lot easier said than done, obviously. But, yeah, and then Claypool's doing okay this year. He's 403 yards, 44th in the league, just 26 receptions, 71st in the league. Like, he's not a premier pass catcher this year so far. So I'm hoping it changes. But it should change once, if he gets a good quarterback or once Roethlisberger starts waking up a little bit. But, yeah, I mean, there are a few other Canadians like on the defensive end as well, and we've mentioned this a few times in the past, but you have the 2 main offensive guys that are highly touted, and like Claypool was 2nd round pick and Hubbard was 4th if I'm not mistaken. And then so we'll talk more about the NFL next week. We'll quickly move on to the MLB. We'll just touch base real quick on this. So the Atlanta Braves, for those of you who don't know, either don't care about the MLB or have been living under a rock for this whole time. They ended up winning in 6 games, I think, against the Houston cheating Astros.
Yes, they won in.
And this isn't Canada's team, but they do have 2 Canadians on there. So I was watching the World Series actually, and then they're like Freddie Freeman had the American flag by it. I'm like, come on, man. He represented Canada last. Like, yeah, sure, he was. I don't know if he was born and raised in the States or if he was just raised in the States, but both his parents are Canadian. So yeah, and then he represented Canada in the last World Baseball Classic. So yeah, he's Canadian in my eyes, and he had a pretty good. He had a pretty good World Series.
Good World Series.
I saw the last game.
Clutch home runs,
yeah.
Clutch hits, yeah.
Yeah, so he, he did really good. And he was Mr. Braves. So when they ended up winning and he got interviewed at the end, he was just so happy, and he was just talking about how it's like, yeah, well, it's about damn time, and like good for us, and like it was just he's so proud to be a part of that team, which was absolutely fantastic. So he ended up batting .318 in the World Series, which is pretty damn good. He had 5 strikeouts and 2 walks, but he had 2 home runs and 5 RBI. And I think it's important to note those 2 home runs were at clutch times. They weren't like you're losing 10-1 and then you hit a solo home run to make it 10-2. This was, if I'm not mistaken, this was to extend the lead from like 4-5 or 5-6 in the game 6. And then he had his other one in a pretty big moment as well to like try to extend the lead a little bit more. And I think it was in game 5, but it was, Astros ended up coming back for that, right? But that was pretty huge. So Freddie Freeman was an integral part. He didn't win the MVP, but a Canadian had a direct impact on who won the MVP. So at the trade deadline, the Atlanta Braves were like, they didn't hit 500 until August. So they were below 500 in team until like mid to late August.
Dang. Okay.
That's insane.
That is insane.
So they were on a hot streak to end the season for sure.
So they were kind of like the St. Louis Blues, but not as bad as the St. Louis Blues.
Kind of, but they however, a Canadian had a direct impact on that. So earlier we talked about the trade deadline that Alex Anthopoulos had. Their entire outfield that played, like their starting outfield in the World Series was all trade deadline acquisitions. The MVP was a trade deadline acquisition, Jorge Soler from the Kansas City Royals. Like, they were all brought in by Alex Anthopoulos without really giving up too much. The relievers, they brought in a Richard Rodriguez, who was he was a pretty good reliever. I don't think he played too much in the postseason anyways. Mm-hmm. But they were huge. So, like, Jorge Soler, Adam Duvall, Eddie Rosario, all 3 of those were integral to... Eddie Rosario, do you remember that? I think it was game 3 or 4. But... he made a monster catch to preserve. Like, they were down 2-0. They got 3 runs, and then Rosario made that monster catch to preserve it. I'm almost positive it was game 4. Jorge Soler had the 3-run home run to start the scoring off in game 6, which was obviously the winner. And then he had a couple monster home runs in the rest of the postseason as well, or in the World Series at least. And then Adam Duvall was like... he was playing center field for the most of the time, and he was integral in it. And then Jock Peterson was like the perfect kind of guy to just come out of the bench to be an extra hit for an extra at bat. Because in the NL, you know that the NL teams, the pitchers bat, right?
Yes.
In the NL ballparks. So he was huge in like replacing the pitcher's spot a couple times and just being the pinch hitter. So Alex Anthopoulos was huge. He wasn't able to celebrate with his team though, hey? He wasn't able to go down because he tested positive for COVID. And unlike last year, Turner decides to go down there with COVID and celebrate. Alex Anthopoulos, being the respectful Canadian that he is, decides, no, you know what? I'm not going to risk anybody else's health and life just to celebrate. I'll celebrate from where I am in a safe distance, and then after we'll celebrate together as a team once I'm healthy. As a respectful human being should.
Oh, yeah.
So, it was absolutely fantastic. I was so happy for the Braves and for Alex Anthopoulos because that's somebody who's directly tied to the Blue Jays as well. Yeah, so this will probably be the last time, we'll talk about the MLB until there's a big move happening and probably regarding Canadian teams. So we didn't extend qualifying offers to Steven Matz, but we did for Marcus Semien. I don't know how likely it is for Marcus Semien to come back and to the Blue Jays, unfortunately. He wants to be a starting shortstop with a contender. But we have Bichette playing shortstop right now. So we'll see. I mean, I'm hoping Semien, maybe they move Bichette to second base and Semien to shortstop or whatever they can do. I'd love to see Semien
hopefully
back.
They can keep him, yeah.
There's a lot that these guys need to do, though, the Blue Jays. There's a lot of moving pieces.
Oh, yeah.
They can still be a really good team, but like I said from the beginning, they need to keep Ray, they need to keep Semien, they need to get 1 or 2 more rotation arms or 1 or 2 more starters, and then they should be set. And it should be good, yeah. So moving on to tennis really quick, we had the Paris Masters. We're not going to touch base on it too much because the Canadians did not do well at all. I think we only had the one in Felix Auger-Aliassime on the men's side, and he lost in the 3rd round. He was seeded 8th. He ended up losing in the 3rd round. I can't even remember the guy he lost to, man. It just wasn't a good game. His 2nd round match, he barely won 2. I think he lost the first set and then came back to win the next 2. So, which is unfortunate because if he would have done well this year or in this tournament, he would have qualified for the finals, the ATP finals that they do in London every year. He didn't qualify for that because of his showing here, but he'll learn from this. I'm hoping. We got a lot of good Canadian talent in tennis that should be able to make a run for it. But I mean, we'll see. The Canadian women played in the Hoffman Cup. No, not the Hoffman Cup. Like the female version of the Davis Cup. I always forget what it's called. The FedEx Cup, I think. Something like that.
Something like that.
But neither Bianca Andreescu or Leylah Fernandez were there to represent. So they got just demolished against Russia, who has 2 top 20 players. Without Bianca and Leylah, we're not as good of a team, unfortunately. So hopefully they can come back from injuries. And in January is really where we're going to start talking about tennis a lot more, because that's when the Australian Open is. Then they also have like a pre-Australian Open tournament for like internationals, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't know if that's going to be taken away because of the Davis Cup coming back now. But we'll see. But end of November is going to be awesome because we'll have a lot of Davis Cup coverage, and hopefully Canada starts. Hopefully Shapo, Felix, and Milos and Pospisil, the 4 of them can like wake up and play well, because we made it to the finals last time, and all 4 of them played fantastic. Right? Actually, Milos wasn't in it too much because he was injured, I think. It was mostly Felix and Shapo?
Shapo? Yeah. I think so, yeah.
Yeah. But these guys are good. It's good tennis to watch. This is really good tennis players, some of the best that Canada has ever had to offer. It's just sad. I wish Daniel Nestor was just coming up now so that we could he could win a few things with the Canadian team, because he was like the face of Canadian tennis for so
a long time,
right?
Yeah.
Oh well. We'll see, I guess. But then moving on, that's all we're really going to touch base on tennis. I mean, there'll be more in a little bit here, but we got to talk about the NHL again. And we're going to start off with this, okay? Just so that we can, we don't have to go on and on about this. But that McDavid goal against the New York Rangers was out of this world. And my favorite thing about it was all, the tweets that came out of it. Like, the whole... McDavid is getting fined $350,000 to pay for the tuition of all the players that he took to school. Oh man, that was unreal. It was just so. I watched it live on the TV, obviously, and I was with some buddies, and they celebrated. They yelled oh, what a goal! Yeah, go! I'm like, my jaw was just dropped. I didn't say a word. Victor, I'm like,
I was at work while that goal happened, and when I looked at it, I was like, oh my god, how?
We're just so blessed to have him. Oh, what a goal! Well, in the moment too, the fact. So
did you see his reaction when he was skating around the corner?
Yeah, he's like, oh, I did that, cool. Holy crap. Yeah, that was absolutely insane.
It was amazing. Holy
crap. And I love how humble he was. After he's like, hey man, listen, I got paid to score big goals like that, so yeah, it was okay, but I've had some pretty nice goals in my career. Of his top goals in his career, where do you think this one ranks?
I would say definitely top 2, maybe the first one, because the Columbus one when he came back from injury was really good.
I'm thinking of that one too.
The Morgan Riley fake was amazing, and there was one play versus Calgary that he did, and it was a really good goal.
And then he had the between the legs goal against Detroit or Dallas that one game.
Yeah, and then the no look shot 5-hole in the playoffs. I think it was last year or the year before. So there's lots of amazing goals by McDavid.
I think this goes top 5 for sure. Probably top 3.
Yeah,
but just top 3 because the moment that it was. We were down 5-4 with 3 minutes left in the game, or just over 3 minutes left in the game, and he comes back and he put himself offside, and then he had the know with oh shoot, I'm offside, so he went back and then So that was pretty sweet. And I was talking to my dad actually. I'm like, who's probably the happiest that McDavid scored this goal? It's not his parents or grandparents or anything. It's probably Morgan Riley.
Yeah, because
Morgan Riley's Morgan Riley replay won't be played as much now.
No, it's gonna be this one.
Yeah. So
again, sorry, Chris, but.
It was a great goal.
It was a great goal.
Chris is a Rangers fan, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for him.
Well, he's an Oilers fan too, but yeah.
I mean, that was so...
Oh, man. Too crazy.
That was a really nice goal. But, I mean, and so looking at the rest of the of the Canadian teams, like Calgary still seems to be doing well. I think they're back down to earth a little bit. They had 2 OT losses this week.
Mm-hmm.
Then they came back and just absolutely manhandled the Rangers 6-0. I'm looking back, that trade that they made for Lindholm and Hanifin for Dougie. So they brought in Lindholm and Hanifin from Carolina, right? For Dougie Hamilton, Furland, and Adam Fox.
Yeah.
Adam Fox didn't want to sign for him.
Or didn't want to sign with
Calgary.
Calgary.
Calgary
Yeah.
drafted him. They traded him to Carolina, and then he signs with New York after the thing expires. But so essentially, it was Dougie Hamilton and Ferland for Hanifin and Lindholm. And Lindholm is turning into a top center.
Lindholm
I think.
is playing really, really
He's
well.
a legit number one, I think, now. Yeah. I mean, my bad, Calgary fans. I didn't think he was. I thought he was more of a winger than a center.
I thought he was good.
Yeah, I thought he was more of a winger than a center, though. From everything that I've watched in like the previous years, he wasn't doing too well, but he's really come to his own as a center in the league. Like he was playing as a winger for Monahan for a while, if I'm not mistaken, too, right? But yeah, Calgary's doing quite well. It's nice to see for Calgary fans. They're doing nice. Toronto woke up from their slump. They're second in the Atlantic now, 1 point ahead of Tampa Bay, but with Tampa Bay as a game in hand, so they have a chance. And then Boston is 5 points behind, but they have 3 games in hand. So this is kind of now where I envisioned it, the standings being. Florida's killing it. They're the last undefeated in regulation team in the NHL. If I'm not mistaken, they broke a record for the best start in NHL history, 10-0-1. That's pretty darn good. And they've got some Canadians on there. My homie Jonathan Huberdeau. Yeah. Good player.
Aaron Ekblad,
yeah. Aaron Ekblad has won himself a spot on the Canadian Olympic roster, in my opinion, just the way he's playing right now.
Did you even set
I had him on there.
Oh, you had him on there?
I definitely had him on there.
I
knew.
You knew.
You had Dougie Hamilton instead of him.
Hamilton.
But Hamilton's injured now. I'm just waiting for the you're right, Victor, I'm sorry.
No. Not going to say it.
And then, so Crosby was about to come back from his wrist injury, but then he got COVID, so now he's still not back. But, so the Metro, they don't have a Canadian team in there, so we're not going to talk too much about them. They have a lot of Canadian players, but anyways. They don't have a single team under 500, eh? Still. Their worst team is Pittsburgh, 4-3-3. And Pittsburgh is without Crosby or Malkin.
So, especially when Crosby comes back, it's not going to be last in their divisions.
Yeah.
They're going to move up for sure.
The Islanders are 5-2-2. They have yet to play a single home game this year.
Them too?
Yeah. They're starting the season on a 13-game road streak. Or 13-game road trip.
That's tough.
The fact that they're 5-2-2 after that is actually unbelievable.
That is pretty good. Yeah, and they're only like you said, 5-2-2, so that's a really good record still.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's incredible. Winnipeg's in second in the Central. They're doing really decent, actually. Second or third. I think they'd be technically in third because they have the same amount of points as Minnesota, but Minnesota's a game in hand.
Yeah.
But TSN has them in second. But not a bad start.
Minnesota also has one more win than Winnipeg. They
so
just
I
have
don't know
2
why.
losses.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Probably because regulation wins.
Yeah.
Yeah, because Minnesota has only 3 of their 7 wins came in regulation. They won 3 overtime and 1 shootout. That's pretty crazy to think. Like, less than half of your wins are regulation? That's nuts. And then the division with the most Canadian teams, the Pacific tied actually with the Atlantic, but the Pacific, you have Edmonton first, Calgary second, and then Vancouver last. Vancouver's not had a good start. Elias Pettersson has just been trashed to start this year. JT Miller has been pretty bad too. I'll acknowledge right now I made the mistake. I thought Vancouver was a better team than they actually were. But just looking at the roster that they had, they should be a lot better than what they're doing right now, like significantly.
Yeah, they just have to, especially Pettersson, he just has to get over his slump and then...
What do you think it is? Do you think it's coaching, or do you think it's or just the players, or what is it? Because the GM betting did as much as he could. I mean, Oliver Ekman-Larsson isn't the player that he used to be.
But he's still pretty decent.
He's still decent, and he got rid of his entire fourth line that was making way too much money.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
like I don't think it's necessarily like I think Jim Medding has made some horrific trades in his past, but I don't think this year was a terrible trade that did that, right?
No.
Because what was unfortunate was their Toffoli, the trade for Toffoli. They gave up a lot just for rental. That was a bit of an overpayment in my opinion, right? And then they've had a couple of those too. Like they traded away Jared McCann for nothing pretty much because they didn't like how he started the season, but now he's the number one center for Seattle. Right?
He's playing
But
pretty
I mean,
decent.
Seattle isn't necessarily a great team. They're just ahead of Vancouver, 9 points.
They're
right?
basically tied.
But they have all 4 of their wins came in regulation.
That's also
except, you know what? Seattle just lost to Arizona, so they're the worst team in the NHL now, Seattle.
I think it's probably because they have the same coach. I think it's just he's just, or especially Pettersson. I think he's just in a slump, just like Toronto, like when Matthews and Marner they were slumping. Now they're playing pretty decent, but I think it's just it's just nerves or something.
I looked at a stat, and I think the last 11 or 12 goals that Toronto scored came from their big 4.
So now they're starting to wake up.
Yeah, they're starting to wake up for sure.
So I guess Vancouver fans, just be patient because they will wake up.
But Vancouver's they're showing to be a bad team right now. Like the depth is not showing on their defense, and their depth is really showing on the offense. Like they're the only reason that they've won 4 games is because Thatcher Demko stood on his head.
No,
same with Yaroslav Halak.
Goaltending, they're perfectly fine. Like you said, Demko's standing on his head, and Halak is the best backup goalie, basically. Yeah, no, it's just besides the 2 goalies, they just have to start waking up and start playing better.
Yeah, I'm looking at the standings here. Dallas doesn't have a single regulation win. They've won 4 games, and they were all in OT or shootout. That's pretty nuts to me. And then, so Carolina lost their first game of the season the other day against Florida. They've won all of their games in regulation, and they lost their 1 game in regulation too. So they haven't gone to a single OT, which is interesting for me. But and then, who's your biggest surprise of the Canadian teams right now?
I'm still gonna say Montreal. Just how they're playing right now, not like they used to, like last year or even like the year before. It's just weird seeing how it's not really working out right now for Montreal because they're starting 3-10, and they better start because they played 13 games, which I think is one of the most the most.
They've played the most games in the league.
They have to start waking up, or else it's just gonna catch up to them, and they're not gonna be able to get out of that hole.
Carey Price is coming back on Monday. I think
I heard that too. So
they just need to get healthy again, man.
Yeah.
And I think the Deneau signing elsewhere and the Weber injury is huge because that was how they got to the finals last time. Was just completely dominating physical play, which is how Calgary's doing so well right now. They're just such a physical defense.
That's also another surprise because we thought they were going to be good, but they weren't going to be this good.
Yeah, I mean, I put them in 4th or 5th behind Seattle. I'm looking back, I'm like, okay, I'm an idiot. How did that happen? But Calgary surprised me. We just had
high hopes for Seattle.
Yeah, Calgary surprising me, and I think I did not think Edmonton. I thought Edmonton would be good. I didn't think Edmonton would show to be this good.
No, this too. Yeah, we don't want to be homers, but it's true.
I'm interested in seeing how they're going to be once they get injuries, because every team's going to get injuries, and I really think that defense. If we get some injuries in that defense, it's going to be a little tough, especially on the right side.
Yes.
Any injuries on the right side is going to be just detrimental, I think, to us.
And our biggest question mark was goaltending, and since Smith got injured, we were like. We were both like, oh crap, like Koskinen in the past hasn't been that good.
I'm glad Mikko's confidence is back up a little bit, but he's still going to have a garbage game every 4 games.
Yeah.
He plays 3 good this is the breakdown I had, and I was talking to a buddy about this the other day. So he plays 2 good games, 1 average game, and 1 just awful game
This
in a
one was
4-game
the
stretch.
Awful game.
Yeah.
This past game was the awful game.
Mind you, like the Oilers are giving up a good amount of like high danger chances against, and he's come up with some saves in there.
No, that's true. He's finally making those big saves when he needs to.
Yes, and no. In the games where he's
time.
playing bad, like this Rangers game, he probably should have had 2 of those.
Oh yeah.
Like, and especially like in the moment, especially like we can't, like, the power play goal was just nothing he could have done about that. Nothing. But like a couple ones that just went low blocker on him, like, yeah, you know what? It's a lot easier said than done. To especially like looking over and like on TV, it looks a lot easier. It's probably not an easy save at all, but those are the kind of saves that a big goalie is going to make to keep your team in a game, right?
Yeah.
Every goalie's gonna have bad games.
Oh yeah.
Every goalie's gonna have bad games. But like the way I'm looking at it, like, he had some big saves. He played okay. Had some big saves against Anaheim. He was awful against Philadelphia. He just gave pucks away for fun. And then this last game against the Rangers, he was like not very good in my opinion. But the team's standing up for him and defending him, and I think that's what you have to, because his confidence was completely shot after last season.
Oh yeah.
But this will be an interesting test for the Oilers. They're on a 5-game road trip. They play 3 good teams in this road trip. They play Buffalo and Detroit, so they have to win against those 2. And then they also play against St. Louis, Boston, and Winnipeg. And not in that order, but they play against those 3. So it's going to be some good challenges in there for sure. But
it's a good test.
Yeah.
Because like most of our wins have been against not as good teams or like average teams.
Yeah, so this is where it's gonna. Edmonton's not gonna finish the season with 900 points percentage. Okay, like, it's not gonna happen. However, I honestly do think that the way that they're playing right now, they are a playoff team.
They're basically playing like 80s Oilers hockey.
Kind of. Yeah, just a little bit better defense.
A little bit better.
But we're still giving up. Like, Fogle gave up a couple like glory chances that resulted in goals, and like some ridiculous giveaways that don't need to be done, and like that's something that coaching is going to help. So I'm interested in seeing this, but it's nice that we can outscore our problems. Like Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl.
It's not good per se, but it's good that we can. Yeah.
During the regular season, it'll be good. During the playoffs, that's not going to work.
Yeah, like I remember
and
like in the past, like once we were down, like last game, once we were down 4-1, the past Oilers, they would just crumble and we would
just giving up. Absolutely agree.
And now especially with like our power play being godly, and then like McDavid, Draisaitl, Hyman, pool party just coming out of nowhere. Mm-hmm. Well, not coming out of nowhere, but improving more this season.
Rejuvenating his career.
Yes. And then our third line just actually being a third line instead of in the past.
I did actually notice that our third line goals for and against, they scored 3 goals, but they've been on for 6 goals against. So the underlying numbers aren't that great. So they need to figure out their defensive play a little bit better. But they're providing offense, which is different than what we've had in the past. However, they do still need to step it up a little bit on the defensive end. So this whole team needs to improve defensively, but as of right now, they're able to outscore their problems. Yeah. I mean, it helps that you have the number 1, 2, and 5 point producers in the league, and the number 1, 2, and 3 assist producers in the league.
Yep.
Nuge is on an absolute slump in goals, but he has 14 assists.
Like,
so
yeah.
Whatever.
Like I wouldn't call that a slump because he is helping with the offense. But
yeah, I only said it was a slump because he actually talked about it, being, I'm ice cold and scoring. I'm in a slump, and when they all laughed, it's like, but I'm getting assists, so I'm still helping the team win, and eventually I'll get out of the scoring slump. So,
like, honestly, I'm not afraid. I'm not scared for Nuge. Like,
no,
he's really good defensively, and he's just helping out with the offense with the assists. So, I wouldn't be scared for Nuge.
No,
he's fine. He's fine.
We'll see how this week is with the Oilers. And then one other thing I want to touch base on in Canadian team. Canadian team named a new captain today, or this last week.
Yeah, they did.
Brady Tkachuk.
Yeah.
I was a little intrigued by it, to be honest with you. I thought it was going to be either Brady Tkachuk or Canadian Thomas Chabot. I thought it was going to be one of those two.
I'm thinking they're doing this just so that he could probably stay longer.
And I kind of agree. I think they named him because he agreed on a long-term contract. I don't think it was to entice him to stay. I think Brady Tkachuk is more of a vocal leader. So everything that he does on the ice and everything he like seeing him interact on the bench, everything about him shows me that he's a vocal leader, and Chabot is more of a quiet leader.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Ottawa decided that it was best for them to have a vocal leader as their captain as opposed to the silent kind of type.
That's also true, yeah.
Both were terrific options. I think both are really good players. I think Shabbat is a better player, just in his position. I think Shabbat is going to be, if not is already, one of the top 10 defensemen in the world right now. I think he's up there, and I think he has he has the highest ceiling of that team, not named Tim Stützle, right? Or Stützle. Stützle. Sorry, not Stützle. Stützle. But yeah, and then I think it was fitting. It made sense. Brady was named captain. That makes sense. So, looking in though, like Montreal, if Shea Weber retires, which it's right now looking that he will retire because of his injury, who do you think is the next best fit to be captain there?
Good question.
I'll tell you mine because I came up with it. I was thinking about this all day and I didn't mention it to you. I'm sorry, but
How could you?
Gallagher.
Yeah, that was probably my guess.
I think Gallagher is the guy. He's the energizer bunny of that team, signed long term, so you don't have to replace him anytime soon. And then the only thing is he's injury prone a lot, so he's not necessarily active the whole time on there.
Mm-hmm.
And then another Canadian team without a captain is Calgary. And who do you think would be Calgary's next captain?
Kind of want I'm thinking possibly Monahan, or I was gonna say Monahan or Lindholm.
As much as I hate him, Tkachuk is the heart of that team.
Yeah,
I think it's either
I'm just
Tkachuk
thinking I don't know.
I think it's Tkachuk, or he's still new to the team, but I think he does have leadership experience. Tanev.
That's a good one too.
So there's one Canadian team officially that doesn't have a captain. Another one that's probably going to have to get a new captain soon because of the injury. The career-threatening injury to one of their players. But it'll be interesting. The captain is a pretty important position on a team. I mean, I don't think it's as big of a deal as some people make it out to be, because there's a lot of leadership that you need on the team. To be successful in any league and in anything really, you need leadership. But it will be interesting to note, and I'm excited for Crosby to get back and see how Pittsburgh does there. And this is turning out to be a really interesting season. There's a couple surprises, but I think most of the teams are performing around where we thought they would, except for Chicago.
Yes.
Chicago, Vancouver, and that's about it. Buffalo's gone back to normal. They're 5-4-1. They just lost their last 4 in a row. So yeah, they're back down.
They're back down.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see how the rest of the season is, man. It's been an interesting. I'm excited for the Oilers' upcoming schedule this week. I'm gonna miss their game on Friday, obviously, because we're gonna be at the soccer game. But so far, yeah, I mean, our Draisaitl took a penalty, so maybe he won't be Selke nominated anymore. I thought that wasn't necessarily a garbage penalty. I did see a little bit of interference there. It made sense. He got too emotional. He was like, "Oh, well, it was an interference." I'm like, "Come on, Leon, that's interference, buddy." The penalty on Cassian previously, that was garbage.
Oh, that was garbage. No,
that was not in this game, in the New York game. I was saying too. He took a penalty that was absolutely horrific. That wasn't a real thing. Come on.
He's taken in the past couple games, we've seen that he got garbage penalties.
He was given 3 horrific penalties for just because it's whatever. Whatever, Edmonton won, so I don't really care anymore. Yeah. So next week we will touch base on again all the sports. We'll do a little bit of a recap on soccer, but we're gonna have an all about footy episode in the next midweek. So not this upcoming midweek, but next week's midweek we'll have an all about footy episode again, because it'll be the end of the international window, and we'll have more of an idea of where Team Canada stands on for the World Cup qualifier. I'm telling you, and I'll say this again, this is a massive 2-game window where they can either not cement their spot in there, but they can start writing it with pressing really hard on the pencil to write their name in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so we'll have an all about footy episode. So we'll talk a little bit about it next week. We also we'll talk about the NBA. That is going to still go on. We'll talk about the NFL, some more stuff, see how Chuba Hubbard and Chase Claypool do. And then we'll bring up the defensive guys. They've been doing pretty well. I do remember seeing a few of their games, and they are playing quite well right now. We won't talk about tennis, I don't think, or MLB, because both of those are a little bit on the down low right now. And then we'll definitely talk about NHL. And I'm sure there's going to be other stuff, other sports going on too. So we'll try to broaden our horizons next week for sure. But later on this week, for midweek episodes, we're going to start doing a little bit of a prospect profile for the Canadian teams. So we're going to start from east to west, and we're going to start in Ottawa. I think they are the furthest. No, the furthest east team is Montreal. So we'll start with Montreal, and then we'll work our way towards. We're not very good at geography, okay? So like, please don't rip us a new one for this. I'm sorry to. I don't even think I had a geography teacher really, but sorry to the teachers for that. But
I'm sorry.
We'll start from east to west. So we'll start with Montreal, and then we'll work our way, like we said, west. So that'll be our first midweek episode, and then the second midweek episode, we're going to do a really in-depth preview of the Team Canada games happening this week for the men. Next week, actually, we'll also talk more about the women, because they are playing the league games. And yeah, it'll be interesting to note. So we'll start talking about our women more, because they're still doing really well. But awesome. Well, thank you everybody for listening to our episode this week. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Leave us a comment on what you think and what would you like us to add, because we're really focusing on the same 5 things every week. So if you guys want something different, let us know, and we'll look into it a little bit more.
See what we can do.
Exactly. So whatever excuse we have to watch more sports,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Right. Well, thank you everybody for listening to our episode 7 of the CanAs podcast, and we will see you all next week.
Adios, amigos.